Morning friends, and welcome to this BNHS MNS 2-day event to celebrate the life and work of Dr. Salim Ali. This is day one. A very hearty welcome to our special guest, uh, Bitu Sehgal, who's taken time off to be here with us, and Dr. Subramania, who will be giving a talk on is redoing the entire Mysore Earth Survey trail after 78 years. So I now invite our president, K.V. Sudhakar, for his opening remarks.
Good morning, friends and fellow bird watchers. When Mr. Kumaran Sadasivam came up with the idea of having Salim Ali event for his birthday, and when he said even the BNHS will be collaborating with this event, we were actually very thrilled to have BNHS collaborate with us in remembering Salim Ali. It's also very apt that Salim Ali has had several surveys and he has done a lot of bird watching in Salim Ali. So to say, he has got a lot of connections with South India. And of course, the Point Kalimar bird ringing camp was very dear to his heart. So we took this opportunity to organize this two-day event. And I am very happy that BNHS gave its full-hearted support for this event. And we are honored to have the president of the BNHS, Mr. Bitu Sehgal, here. We have with this morning as our special guest, Mr. Bitu Sehgal, environmentalist, writer, founder of Sanctuary Nature Foundation, the founding editor of the popular wildlife and ecology magazine Sanctuary Asia. Hearty welcome, Mr. Sehgal. I now invite you to inaugurate this BNHS MNS event celebrating the life and work of Dr. Salim Ali. Mr. Bitu Sehgal.
Thank you so much. I am very honored. I can assure you that MNS and BNHS have a destiny to fulfill together. Never in the last 70 years have I ever imagined that the threats to our subcontinent's ecological foundations will be as fragile as they are today. I believe that particularly Dr. Salim Ali and people like him, I really wish Mr. M. Krishnan was here with us today. He was like, for me, he was like a very loving and very strict teacher for me, you know. When Sanctuary was born at that point, he literally sort of shaped us and things like this. And Dr. Salim Ali, he was the BNHS and BNHS was Dr. Salim Ali for so long. But the fact is that he was a very expansive man. He was a very outward man. He believed deeply in science. But I can remember sitting with him, with Mr. R.E. Hawkins, with Mr. Dharmakumar Singh ji, and I could see the frustration on his face sometimes when he said, why are you only counting the length of the tail and the number of feathers and how the claws and the beak? Why don't you ask, why does the bird do what it does? What does it need to survive? So long before it became anything, what you might call, you know, I mean, today conservation biology is something which is everybody knows what it is. But he was talking at that point, the need for us to become naturalists, to observe, to enjoy, to not disturb, to stay, all the values which today many people think they have invented. People like Dr. Salim Ali and people like, you know, Mr. M. Krishnan and so many other giants, you know, so many other giants before us, they did this, and I am so delighted that his surveys are being retraced and have been retraced. The Travancore surveys are waiting to be done. According to me, I think the baseline data that exists in the BNHS collections, it's waiting for citizen science to come up and tell us that, look, here is what was, this bird could not have been there, or this animal could not have been there unless this was the ecosystem. Look at it now. We will have to come back and rewild India, because one of the things that is very clear to all of us who know is that the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment. And the BNHS has always taken a position where protect the ecosystem, the species will look after themselves. We don't have to go planting trees. Of course, we have to where it is absolutely necessary in a city or somewhere where cement has replaced everything. But these are the gardeners of our Eden. And I personally feel right now that one of the greatest things that could be done by MNS now is involve young people and let them learn that, for instance, this whole area, Chennai and its surrounds, according to me, it was one of the world's finest water harvesting systems. I don't know if somebody is studying the eel migration that comes and it all the way up to the tanks. The tanks were made in such a way that water was used and used and used, and creatures could use them, birds could use them, amphibians could use them. We need to go back to the future, I think, and I will not take much longer. I will just say this. I am very honored. I am very grateful. And you can be very sure that the BNHS from top to bottom, left to right, north to south will be with you in this adventure that we have ahead. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Mr. Bittu Saigal. In fact, I just wanted to quickly add that currently MNS is engaged in two projects. One is to, keeping Chennai as a central point, 100 meters to the north, south, and to the west. Out of 69 diurnal raptors, which have been recorded across the country, we have, about 5 years ago, we had done one survey and we found that we have 38 species here. So now we are doing another survey, which is going to be in depth in order to understand everything, including changes in habitat, getting the local population involved, everything. That project has got started last month. And we are also trying to do a complete survey of the ICMPAs along the Tamil Nadu coast. Work on that has also started. So, we are engaged, we are trying to engage ourselves in both. So, I mean, the marine biodiversity is also immense and it's also got a lot of value. So, we just thought we would get involved with that as well. So, with those few words to add, I would thank you once again for inaugurating the event. And MNS is indeed fortunate to have you in our midst this morning. And please join us again tomorrow if you can, and you can make the time. We start again tomorrow with our second part of the event at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Certainly, I shall be there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Saigal.
I see Mrs. Tara Gandhi has joined us as well. She is the BNHS for us in Chennai with you. So
Kumaran is also there, part of your council.
Kumaran, where is Kumaran? I can't see.
Kumaran has been there right from the very beginning.
Oh, but I must then change the view. As I said, I don't know what view I have to. Yes, now I see. Yeah, sorry, it was my own.
No problem.
How are you, Kumaran? All well?
I'm well, thank you. Good to see you here, Bittu.
Good to see you.
So we will proceed with the next part of our day today.
I would like to say a couple of words. Mr. Saigal, that was a very inspiring opening speech. I think we take this opportunity. BNHS and MNS can have more collaborative efforts in the future. Thank you very much for saying all this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So now we will have to talk on the trail of Dr. Salim Ali's Mysore Bird Survey, which is done 2018-19 by Dr. S. Subramania. Dr. S. Subramania, as we all know, is a renowned ornithologist who has been studying birds for over 4 decades now. In fact, initially during the year 1980-81, he worked at BNHS on almost all projects which were led by Dr. Salim Ali. He thereafter went to complete his doctoral studies in agricultural ornithology, which I'm sure at the time when he studied must have been a very, very new, completely new subject. And he worked at the University of Agricultural Sciences in Bangalore. He worked on the red did a book on the threatened birds of Asia at BirdLife International, Cambridge, UK, and has compiled details on all the heronries in India and done tremendous amount of work in helping with their conservation. He played a very key role in the establishment of the Ramadevara Vulture Sanctuary at Ramanagara in Karnataka to save the habitat of the critically endangered Indian vulture and getting GKVK campus. Now, GKVK campus is the campus where the Bangalore Agricultural University is, situated as a biodiversity heritage site. He of course works voluntarily with the Karnataka Forest Department to support its bird conservation initiatives. In the year 2018, he undertook his dream project. So I'm sure we'll hear from him what actually triggered this entire dream project of his, and to follow the footsteps of Dr. Salim Ali to reconduct his 1939-40, which means he did this after 78 years, Mysore Bird Survey. So now let us hear from Dr. Subramania how he went about doing it. Dr. Subramania.
Just for a moment, before Dr. Subbu starts, can I please request all of you to switch off your audio and video, please?
And if there are any queries, to please key them into the chat box, which Dr. Subramania will answer after his presentation is over. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, Sudhakar. It was wonderful meeting you. I don't know, never imagined it'll come to this stage in the COVID times that we have to interact with each other or Zoom. I'm so glad to be here, and thanks for Sudhakar inviting me to give this presentation. I deem it as an honor to be with MNS again, because I've been with MNS on and off right from 1979. When I made my first trip to Chennai and was with Santaram on several of MNS birdwatching areas, going and watching birds there. And thank for MNS inviting me and BNHS to invite me to give this talk and following the footsteps of Dr. Salim Ali to reconduct his 1939-40 Mysore bird survey. And as all we know that Dr. Salim Ali is one of the greatest ornithologists that India produced. And it's amazing that the amount of work that he did to bring information together is very, very monumental. And if I had to single out one huge contribution that Salim Ali did, was this publication of the Handbook of the Birds of India and Pakistan, which is the culmination of all his entire life work, wherein he has packaged all that information between the covers of these 10 volumes. And this he did with Dylan Ripley of Smithsonian, and these volumes were published between 1968 and 74. And these books are so amazing for bird watchers to refer to. Of course, you need to graduate to this level to use this book from the initial days of bird watching. And many a times when we have gone out in the field, we observed something, and we used to think that we observed something very unique. But when I come and refer the handbook, you'll find that the information is already there. The compilation has been so thorough. However, having said that, this is not the first ever effort to publish the magnum opus on Indian ornithology that Salim Ali did, but there are two earlier efforts. The first ever effort was by Evo Hume, who was the editor of the first journal of Indian ornithology, the Stray Feathers, where Hume he published this 10-volume of Stray Feathers between 1873 to 1883. During that time, he was in touch with amazing number of sportsmen and also ornithologists across India. There's a map of all the Hume's correspondents who contributed information to Stray Feathers, and also they sent him specimens, their field notes, material for his comments. And he collated all that information, he used to package it and also publish as each of those volumes of Stray Feathers. And because of this, he had an immense knowledge of the ornithology of the subcontinent. And he wanted to again write it up as a publication, the ultimate book on the birds of Indian subcontinent. But very unfortunately, when he returned to, he used to live in Shimla during summer. In 1883, when he came to Shimla, to his horror, he found that the entire manuscript that he had written about for this book, for publication of this book, has been stolen and sold off by one of his servants as a waste paper. And this killed his interest in ornithology. And after that, he never looked at birds again. And I used to live in Rothney's Castle in Shimla, and this castle still stands today, but nobody is allowed inside. If you can, somebody can go inside and also photograph all these areas. This glass, this one, conservatory was a place where he used to keep his specimens, I was told. But it will be wonderful if somebody can go and photograph these areas before this area gets raised down. There are plans of food to convert this into a 5-star hotel or something like that. But everything will be lost. The second effort was by Hugh Whistler and Ticehurst. Whistler was a policeman in Punjab during before he went to England, and also Ticehurst was a surgeon in Karachi. Both of them had, of course, traveled widely. Of course, Whistler in India and also Ticehurst in Pakistan. They wanted to collaborate and also again compile all the information and publish this the ultimate book on Indian birds. And for that, they compiled a whole lot of information, especially Whistler. What he did was that he wrote down his own field notes and also the research that he had done, and also pieced together, cut and pasted sections on each particular species on a sheet of paper taken from different published sources. And he prepared this, and also he was the first ever ornithologist in India to again think of distribution maps. What Whistler did was that he got a cartographer to prepare a blank map of India, got them printed. And also he started mapping all the known locations of every bird species in India. They're the first ever, and also if you can look at it, these dark spots are the locations, and also here on the top of it he has written the numbered each of these spots and also indicates which are those places. This is one for the map that he developed for Indian Pitta. And also this is how he did his manuscripts. That is, he wrote down his own observations or information gleaned from other sources, and also cut and pasted sections of the species relevant sections from different sources, whether it's a book or a published paper. And also these are of course now known as Whistler manuscripts, and these manuscripts are there in British Museum in Tring. And of course, if anybody has a chance to go and look at it, and you can look at it. And this information Salim Ali again included while preparing the handbook. The Whistler's manuscript, whatever the information went into it. And also the 10 volumes were published. And also for publication of these 10 volumes, Salim Ali did something which nobody else did, I guess. He read through everything that was published on Indian birds, right from the beginning till the time when he was ready to publish the, write up the handbook. And in collating that information, he found that in addition to what has been written about it, he wanted to have first-hand information on the birds of India, especially as Bittu mentioned on the behavior and the ecology of the birds. And also he wanted to put it on paper, the distributional differences, different races of different species of birds that I had. And when you look through these handbooks, you find that for the first time in India, the handbook published the distribution maps of different subspecies of every bird species in India. That way it was so amazing. He delineated the ranges of different subspecies. And that's exactly he did. And for that, he wanted to have the first-hand information, field knowledge on different bird species. For that, he hit upon a wonderful idea that why can't, he thought that at that time, why can't I go and approach the Maharajas of princely states and survey their principalities. so that he can get a first-hand information. For this, he went and approached the Maharajas, told them that he would like to survey their principality and whether the Princely state could fund his surveys. And through this, he did the surveys of Hyderabad, Cochin and Travancore, Central India, that is Bhopal, Bastar, Bawalpur, Mysore, Gujarat, Kutch and Gwalior, Indore. And a part of this grandiose design was the Mysore Bird Survey that happened between November 6, 1939 to February 24, 1940. And this is the old princely estate of Mysore. And of course, at the time, Karnataka had different, this one also, presidencies also, Madras presidency, part of it belonged to Hyderabad state, and a small portion of it belonged to Madras presidency. There was a coup, this one. Other than that, this was the princely estate owned by the Maharaj of Mysore. At that time, it was Nalwadi Krishnaraja Vadayara IV was ruling Maharaja, this one. And of course, during this survey, covered about 12 broad regions that was spread across the present day in 9 districts. And it is about 75 locations that he surveyed. And this survey went on for 110 days, right from November 6th, where he started it from Biligangan Hills and ended up at Kolar Goldfields after 110 days. And this also happened when Salim Ali had finished his Hyderabad ornithological survey in 1932, and he did not have a place to go. He was jobless, he did not have money, he didn't know what to do. Then at that time, one of the persons he knew in Hyderabad, when he did the Hyderabad ornithological survey, Mrs. Nandi, she said that she has a holiday cottage at Kotagiri, whether he and Tamina would like to go and stay there. For Salim Ali, there was an amazing opportunity because he had never gone to the Western Ghats part of India. This would be the first ever experience for him in the wet evergreen forest areas of Western Ghats, and he jumped at it. And Mrs. Nandi bungalow, Monaberry, stands very strong even today. This is a picture of Monaberry, and I've gone there and visited the bungalow, and even gone to the study and looked at the very desk probably where Dr. Salim Ali wrote up the Hyderabad Ornithological Survey paper to JBNHS, which is placed right next to the fireplace. And it is here, he also found that the widow of one of hunter naturalist in Kotagiri resided way back, that is A.M. Kinloch. A.M. Kinloch was a hunter naturalist who used to publish regularly in JBNHS. And in 1921, he went on a shikar, he injured a wild boar. And in those days, the hunting ethics were that if you injure any wild animal, you pursue it and put it down. Otherwise, you'll never know what mayhem it will cause when it comes across people after having been injured. So when the wild boar runs under a bush, he crawls into the bush. But unfortunately, the wild boar turns around, charges at him, rips him open, and he gets killed at the spot here, the very spot there. And that was in 1921. But his wife and 3 daughters lived in a bungalow at the edge of Longwood Shola in Kotagiri. And Salim Ali knew about Kinloch based on the publication that he did in JBNHS, and he would go walk up. He and Tamina would walk up about a furlong away from Monaberry and visit Kinloch bungalow to meet up Kinloch's widow. At that time, he comes in contact with another hunter naturalist called as Ralph Komaru Morris, who used to have a coffee plantation in Biligangan Hills of Karnataka. And R.C. Morris was the son-in-law of the Kinloch because he married the eldest daughter of Kinloch. And Morris used to come to Kotagiri to visit his mother-in-law and there Salim Ali, he runs into Salim Ali, and Salim Ali meets Morris for the first time. And this blossoms, was this one for an association that a lifelong association between Salim Ali and Morris till Salim Ali, Kinlo Morris died in 1976. And at that point of the meeting, Morris invites Salim Ali to his bungalow in Biligangan Hills in this one. And this is the bungalow, Onamati Estate, which is stands as good as the olden days even today. And it's here that Salim Ali started planning for the survey of Travancore and Cochin bird survey and also Mysore bird survey. So with this vast knowledge of South Indian hills and also South Indian terrain, Morris helps Salim Ali to chart out the itinerary for both the bird surveys. And if you want to read about more about Morris, I have a small article written on JLR Explore, the story of Morris. You can get to know about Salim Ali and Ralph Morris Association. And this is Onamati Estate. But our having met Morris, Salim Ali has already started planning for the Mysore bird survey that he was to do in 1939, in 1932 itself. In 1932, he writes a letter to the Darbar of Mysore, asking them whether they will be willing to fund the Mysore bird survey. But unfortunately, the Diwan of Mysore, Sir Mirza Ismail, writes back to Salim Ali stating that the finances of Mysore Darbar government is not very healthy, so they can't fund the survey. And you know how much of money that he asked for? He simply asked for 4,000 rupees. But however, at that time, having been the proposal has been rejected by the Mysore Maharaja. But of course, they gave him the permission to do the survey, but they would not fund the survey. So at that time, Prater, who was the curator and editor of JBNHS at BNHS, came to his rescue, where Prater wrote to American Museum of Natural History, asking them whether they would like to fund the Mysore bird survey by Salim, to be undertaken by Salim Ali. And AMNHS jumps at the opportunity because they wanted to have some fresh museum specimens for their own collections. And they put the condition that the 50% of the birds that are collected in the survey should be given away to the AMNH. And of course, Salim Ali agrees to that, and the survey happens in 1939. Of course, before the survey that can happen, Salim Ali finished even the Travancore and the Cochin survey. It was much after that. And where do I come into all these things? So in 1977, the mid-70s is the time when I started bird watching. And at that time, he has only this book we had to go, anything to go by, the book of Indian Bird by Salim Ali, which is an amazing work that Salim Ali did by trying to take bird watching to the common man by publication of the illustrated field guide to the birds of India. So at that time, at my university, there are 2 or 3 people who were watching birds, and they put this book in front of me and said that this is the book that you should refer to when you want to watch birds. And they made me mug up the entire book from cover to cover. They gave me 5 exams on this, so that I will be very well versed with this book. And this is an amazing book even today for any beginner on India, the beginner, bird watching beginner in India, they should read this book. It is packed with such an amount of information on Indian birds. And this time, of course, having used this book so much, at that time I had this dream that someday at least, someday I wanted to go and meet Salim Ali for at least for once in my lifetime. But fortunately, opportunity presented itself for me in the form of an advertisement in Deccan Herald newspaper in Bangalore, where there was they were calling for applications for the post of research biologist in some of BNHS projects to be based at Point Calimere and Bharatpur, the bird migration project and also hydrobiology projects. And in April 1980, I traveled to Mumbai, Bombay at that time. And I was interviewed by none other than Salim Ali himself. Of course, in the panel, there was J.C. Daniel, Nanavati, and also S.A. Hussain. I was sitting there, but Salim Ali, I was interviewed for more than 20 minutes or so. Salim Ali asked me quite a few questions. I answered many of them, but for those which I did not answer, Salim Ali himself prompted and also said, isn't this the way the behavior should be, things. So it was very nice to take part, but I was very, very nervous sitting in front of this great man, was with whom I wanted to have a dream meeting at that point of time. So this, of course, I joined BNHS, and this period took me to Point Calumet, Bharatpur, later in Harike, where you are principally mainly trapping birds and also ringing them. At that point, at that period, I think we ringed somewhere close to about 45,000 birds also. And I was so enthusiastic that I must have ringed some 30% of these birds trapped at that time in these areas. And this photograph, you'll see Ali Hussain, an amazing bird trapper from Begusarai district of Bihar. And Asay Hussain was still a youngster. And this is the son of Ali Hussain. Now I think he works for Godrej also. This one. This is in Bharatpur. So this is it's an amazing opportunity for an youngster who had just broken into, just got entry into bird watching. And my whole perspective of bird watching and ornithology changed when I joined this project. It was working at a different level, which very few people have the opportunity to get to work at. So in 1980-81, there were 33 Siberian cranes. I'm one of those very few people who have seen 33 Siberian cranes, and Salim Ali came out to look at them. So at that time, we were all based in the guest house. Of course, we had our field camp in the guest house of Bharatpur Maharaja inside the palace grounds. And Salim Ali used to come, and of course, when he would come and he would stay with the Bharatpur Maharaja. And during that period, we had not got the permission to study birds in BNHA, this one. We used to trap birds also in the Maharaja field grounds. And this is an extension of that. At that time, Salim Ali started again asking each of us, what was our educational background. And when it, of course, this was me, 24 years old myself, and I'm just trying to ring a black rumped flame back or the golden woodpecker. And you can see the hawk-like eye of Salim Ali following my every move. Yeah, everybody was nervous. They never wanted to ring the bird. They pushed me in front, go and ring this one. And it was an amazing experience to be with this great man. At that time, Salim Ali asked me what was my educational background. I told him that I have a basic degree in agriculture, a master's in entomology, and I'm more interested in birds than anything. Then he asked me, then why are you wasting your time in a project? I was very surprised, and I told him, Salim Ali sir, I don't know what you're talking about. And he said that you have a basic degree in agriculture, you are interested in insects and birds. Why don't you combine your birds, entomology and ornithology together and do your PhD in economic ornithology? So at that time, toward the end of his life, the birds and the welfare of man was more closer to Dr. Salim Ali. That's how the bird collision to aircraft was one of the projects that was going on at that time in BNHS. And taking his advice, I later returned to Bangalore to pursue my PhD degree in rice fields, birds in rice fields at the University of Agricultural Sciences, Bangalore. And at that time, of course, I got this opportunity to work at BirdLife International, Cambridge, where Richard Grimmett invited me to work on the 13 birds of Asia. And there's an amazing opportunity where I had ornithological literature and resources at my feet to use. It was, again, working at a different level, higher level as well, like I had this opportunity at BNHS. And I used to be a very frequent visitor to British Museum in Tring, where I could look at each and every specimen, because I had read about people collecting birds, the Britishers collecting birds in different parts of India. Some of those stories I had read through in Stray Feathers and other publications, and actually see those specimens myself in front of my eyes. It was an amazing year that I spent in England. So at that time, of course, for literature, we used to run to Tim Inskip. He had maintained, they were writing this, the field guide to the birds of India. And what he had, Tim had done was that for each other country, he had photocopies, all the published literature, whether it's a journal or a book or a publication or unpublished reports. And for each country, he had a filing rack in which all the publications are stored, so that this was to become the basis for writing their field guide to birds of the Indian subcontinent, the Grimmett and Inskip field guide. And during that period, this was one of the Birds of Mysore survey article by Salim Ali was one of the things that I got photocopied. And there I read this article right from first page till the last page of the 5-part published serial in JBNHS. And in 1998, returned to India. And only in about 2003, this idea started forming in my minds. Why didn't I start redoing Salim Ali's Mysore bird survey? But my university would not give me 110 days of leave. So I had to wait till I got retired in 2018. And the very next day that I retired, I wrote a letter to the Karnataka Forest Department seeking their permission to reconduct Salim Ali's Mysore bird survey. And from 2003 to 2018, I started planning the whole trip and also compiling information from the 5-part published article on the birds of Mysore by Salim Ali, taking out this one, listing out locations that I had to go and visit, and all the details that Salim Ali had published. I had to again digest it. And this happened in 2018. And also, fortunately, I was able to go and meet most of the key persons in Karnataka Forest Department. And I got the, of course, in March of 2018, I had this dream to see a king cobra in the wild. So traveled to Agumbe in Karnataka, which is one of the wettest rainfall area, which receives about 720 centimeters of rain at the peak of the monsoon. During the monsoon period. And while I was there, I got this call from the forest department stating that my request for reconducting the Mysore bird survey has been approved. The permission has been granted. I was thrilled. And right then and there itself, I started. Agumbe was one of the places that Salim Ali visited, and went and started raking the whole area. And this, of course, still there are time till about November 2019. So I started raking each and every location that Salim Ali visited during the 1939-40 survey, so that I wanted to familiar myself with the locations and also trail that Salim Ali could have taken for collecting birds that he did in during his bird survey. So it took me to Tumkur, different districts, all those major locations where Salim Ali went. I went to Hiriyur, Marikanwe, Devarayan Durga, Namachilme, Hassan, Cardamom Estate, Jagarwali, the Baba Budans, and Kamangundi, Agumbe, Jog Falls, and the whole regions again around Mysore, Ranganthittu, Bandipur, Nagarhole, and BR Hills, and again to the Kolar Goldfields where he ended the survey. This took me about nearly about 8 months to go and look at all these places. And again on November 6, 2018, I kick-started the survey, and the very launch of the bungalow of R.C. Morris, from where Salim Ali actually started the survey in November 6, 1939. Of course, these are the places and dates that, of course, these the places are the same, the dates are same, but only the year is after 78 years. And I visited each and every location that Salim Ali, this one, I planned it thoroughly and visited it. And these are the locations. I started from BR Hills, went to Bandipur, then to Satyamangalam, then to Gudlur Ghats, came to the Nagarhole National Park, then I went to Mysore, went to Ranganthittu. From there I went to Mandya, Shivanasamudra, and Devarabhatta in Krishnagiri districts, and also came via Bangalore, went to Tumkur district, Nandi Hills, Makli Durga, and Devarayan Durga, Namachilme, to Hiriyur areas in Chitradurga, another place called Jogimati, one of the dry deciduous forest areas where Salim Ali saw yellow-throated bulls. then came to Belur, then came to Hassan, Cardamom Estate. I'll show you pictures of that amazing place. Then went to Coorg as one stop point to Coorg. Then went to Shimoga district, the Chikmagalur district, the Badra Tiger Reserve, which is encased within Jagar Valley. Went to Kamangundi, went to Shimoga, the wet zone, then to Agumbe, then to Jog Falls. Then finally I came to, after a 10-day break, I don't know why Salim Ali took those 10-day break, but after a 10-day break at 10 days, I visited KGF to end my survey. Of course, my plan was that at that time, I wanted to make sure that I'll get to see each and every bird that I would come across. For this, enlisted the support of some 30 top bird watchers in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. And these are the people at the unique capability of recognizing more than 95% of the bird calls that you hear when you go out in the wild. And these people were very, very good at that. So in addition to visual sightings, we relied heavily on bird calls to identify the birds that we came across during the survey. And of course, this also, as I'm sorry, 4 top bird watchers from Tamil Nadu. Jagannathan, he came from Valparai to join me this one. George Storm, again, he came to do Krishnagiri survey. Senthil Kumar and Selva Ganesh came from Valparai. They took part in my survey when he did the Tamil Nadu part of the survey. Because in that time, in those times, parts of Coimbatore and Tamil Nadu were also part of Mysore area. So we had to cover those areas also. We covered those areas, and these amazing bird watchers helped me doing that as well. And the method that we followed was that we take a route transit, existing game trail or a jeep track going through the forested areas. And we walked that and we collected a 10-minute time segment and sample at the different distant bands on either side of the transect at 5 meter, 10 meter, and 30 meter and beyond, and recorded each and every bird that we came across every 10 minutes. And a group of 4 of us will usually walk through this one, and that's how we collect the data. And my Mysore bird survey totally different from Salim Ali's 1939-40 survey, in the sense that Salim Ali actually collected specimens of every bird that he collected, and in that he collected about 871 specimens of 243 species of birds during his 10-day Mysore bird survey. In addition, he asked his friend R.C. Morris to make a collection of birds of Biligananga Hills, which he did much before the Mysore bird survey. He collected about 436 bird species, the specimens of 138 species from in and around the Bihar Hills, and this pushed R.C. Morris to visit Satyamangalam area and the foot of Dimmam Ghats, where he collected birds as well. In addition, he had access to the field notebooks of Major Paithin Adams, who was based in Nilgiris, but he would ride on horseback very frequently to Mysore. On the way, he would shoot game birds in lakes and also the forested areas of Karnataka. And this information Salim Ali used in as analysis also. And he collected information from another bird collector, Jim Anderson, and also Humayun Budili used to visit Karnataka frequently. And also he had in touch with the world famous taxidermist, Van Engines, who had a taxidermy factory at Mysore. And also he used his personal observations. And putting all this together, the Mysore bird survey listed about 354 species of about 2,050 records. Whereas, of course, this is the map of what Salim Ali collected. On an average, Salim Ali collected about 11 birds per day. And the range of birds that he collected anywhere from 3 birds to 21 bird specimens every day. Because Salim Ali had 2 other skinners loaned by BNHS, N.G. Pillai and Gabriel, was an amazing taxidermist. And all the initial bird surveys in BNHS in those times were helped by Henrik and also Gabriel and N.G. Pillai, who are amazing taxidermists, would turn the dead birds specimens into study skins. And there is a maximum cap of how much Salim Ali, even if Salim Ali joined them, 3 of them could do. That could skin a maximum of about 7 birds a day. So that way, the maximum birds that Salim Ali collected was 21 bird species on one particular day. Other than that, of course, there was times when he collected only 3 bird species when the weather allowed for him to do that. Whereas we followed visual observation, relied heavily on bird calls. We logged about 417 species, around 60 species more than what Salim Ali did, and also collected information on more than 30,000 birds during the 10-day survey that we did. And this is the map of how we collected. On an average, we counted about 70 bird species per day out of the 417 species that we logged during the bird survey. And of course, when you map this one, of course, they're not, these 2 surveys are not comparable, but these are the tally stands that the Mysore Bird Survey 2019 and 18 and 19 did log more number of bird species, because we had 4 pairs of eyes instead of just one single gun that Salim Ali used to take out into the field. Salim Ali would usually head off from the guest house where he is based, at the base camp, and you walk a trail and collect those bird species. And also between the gun and the bag, I don't know how many specimens he missed. The specimens he shot, but he could not retrieve from the wild. So we will never get to know how many of those birds got missed. And also one of the most significant, there are a few significant outcomes of Mysore Bird Survey. One is the establishment of Rangantidu Bird Sanctuary. So when Salim Ali came to Mysore area, he chanced upon this area where in the midst of Kaveri river stream, there are these tree-covered islands packed with nesting bird species or large water birds. And immediately after the survey, Salim Ali wrote to the Maharaja of Mysore. Within a month period, the area got declared as a bird sanctuary. And even today, this is one of the amazing and the most picturesque bird sanctuary that we have in India, thanks to Salim Ali. And also, in addition to that, he found a very isolated disjunct population of striped babbler, which is usually otherwise seen in the northeastern and eastern area. And the closest that you can see the species from Karnataka is the Vizag Ghats. And he came across this bird species on the bamboo covered margins of Kabini River, where you have a Jungle-Lodges resort. And also, he collected those specimens there. And of course, I made a concerted effort to locate these birds. But unfortunately, I could not locate this bird species. In spite of spending time, 2 days of time in the right kind of habitat, under the threat of being encountering elephants, but you could not come across the species, mainly because the bamboo areas in the region had died off about 8 years back. So this is a heavily bamboo dependent species, and you could not locate it. And of course, all the bamboo clumps are dry and stood like this when I did the survey. And there's no way of locating the species for me. But fortunately, some bird watchers may come across the species, and we may get to see the species again in future someday. And another thing was that R.C. Morris did was the collection of the white-naped tit or the pied tit at the foot of Dimbang Ghats when he did his collection of birds for Salim Ali in 1934. And in Satyamangalam area, he collected this specimen. And the specimen, of course, this is one of the field camp of R.C. Morris in 1934. And there's a specimen of pied tit that he collected, which is now in a British Museum. And we went out specially looking for this species over 2 days. And myself, Jagannath, and Selva Ganesh, and Senthil Kumar, and we went there. And also the habitat is so amazing. And you'll be very, very surprised to see this habitat devoid of lantana. That was very, very surprising and also shocking for us. Where on the other side in Karnataka, all the forests are reeking with lantana. And here we had the species, but we could not pursue the call because there were elephant trumpeting on the other side of the forest. So the forest department staff said there's no way you can get into the forest. So unfortunately, we could not locate the species, even though we think we heard the species. And another significant outcome of the Mysore Bird Survey is that the discovery of a different race of rock bush quail, for which Salim Ali went to Chitradurga area and to in a place called as Marikanwe at the Vanivila Sagar dam. And here he found that there's an unusually colored rock bush quails whose plumage coloration matched the red sandy loam soil that was there in the terrain of Chitradurga and Hirur areas. And these are the type specimens of the quail, which is now called as the laterite bush quail or the Salim Ali rock bush quail, which he collected. And also what Salim Ali did was that when he came across this species, in addition to collecting the birds, he also collected pieces of this earth and sent it to Whistler, who was helping him in identifying the bird species and races properly. And sent it to Whistler in England. And also Whistler, when he looked at it, he found that this race, the coloration of this race was distinctly different. And he named this species after Salim Ali, calling it as particular Argunda Salim Ali. On this, of course, we made efforts to photograph this particular race, but these are some of the finest photographs that you ever get to see of this particular race. And also, this is a female. And this is how we identify the species, that this species compared to other nominate races of rock bush quails has thin white shaft streaks on the feathers of the back. And each of these shaft streaks end up in a triangular patch. And also the belly is again rufous, which is not the case in the nominate race. And there's no difference between the coloration of that and the back. And this is how the two races, this is a nominate race, the particular Argunda. This is a Salim Ali's laterite rock bush quail, particular Argunda Salim Ali, which Whistler named it after him. And this is how these two races are so distinct. They are good enough to be this is good enough to be a different species altogether. But this is how they look. This is the nominate race, and this is the laterite rock bush quail that you get to see. And this is the typical habitat of the laterite rock bush quail in Karnataka. And it's found in a very small patch, and this is the close-up view of the habitat in which the rock bush quail resides, which we can, again we went and surveyed in Marikanwe area of Chitradurga. So this habitat in which the rock bush quail, laterite rock bush quail resides, as you also get to see Marshall Sayora, grey-necked buntings, and rufous fronted premias, which you can draw as parallels. And another species that Salim Ali had a special interest was to ascertain, delineate the habitat of the yellow-throated bulbul, which had been collected in very few localities in South India. We had very little information on that. And Salim was able to collect these species and also describe the habitat of the species, which is boulder-strewn hill slopes with sparse scrub, the typical habitat of the yellow-throated bulbul that he collected in 2 other locations. We located species in about 6 other localities. In addition, also Salim Ali had come to Jog Falls, where he looked at the wild population of rock pigeons. In the cities, we have the feral population of the rock pigeons, but Jog Falls is one of the areas where you get to see the wild rock pigeons residing in the gorge where the Jog Falls is there. Because when we were there, there was a white-bellied seagull that flew up the waterfall, and it just scattered the pigeons like a hornet, like you disturb the hornet nest. And there's amazing views of the bird going up the waterfalls. So this survey also gave me opportunity to visit all those bungalows, forest guest houses, and either inspection bungalows, circuit houses where Salim Ali actually stayed during the survey. And he made a point to track down each and every one of them. And I actually stayed in some of these guest houses as well. And of course, these are the guest houses, different places. And the guest house where he stayed in Agumbe is in very dilapidated conditions. Now, the forest department is trying to renew reconstruct the guest house again to make it livable. And this is the one at Bandipur, of course, where each of these guest houses have these nameplates in the Mysore Forest Department. They put the year, so you can actually see these are some of the old guest houses that was there during that period. And also at Devarayan Durga, the old guest house has been, this is the guest house where Salim Ali stayed and has been raised down. That is made way for a new interpretation center where they put up photographs of Salim Ali. And there's another one guest house, old guest house at KGF, which is still in use and still livable. There are some of the inspection bungalows where Salim Ali stayed. And also in one of the guest houses, the guest house authorities have maintained the guest house register at Seti Ali guest house in Shimoga. You can actually see the entry made by Salim Ali in the guest house where it says Salim Ali, biologist, 25th January to 3rd February 1940, and also it says on Mysore State Ornithological Survey. It was amazing to come across this guest house register entry. In addition, of course, it gave me opportunity to see some other amazing birds that you get to see in forest areas, away from the maddening crowd of the cities. And there's a flame-throated bulbul, oriental dwarf kingfishers, the huge flocks of oriental turtles in Shimoga area, and rufous-bellied hawk eagles, which very surprisingly was happily living in a teak plantation, hunting around there. And also the Western Ghats Shola endemics, the residents, like the Wayland of thrush, the Nilgiri flycatcher, the Nilgiri blue robin, the white-bellied shortwing, the black and orange flycatchers. It's amazing to come across these birds and also see them. And also a leaking water tap in the midst of a dry, parched area like Chitradurga, in the midst of a bamboo clump, a leaking water pipe had attracted amazing type of species like the Tickle's thrush and also the blackbird and blue-capped rock thrush and orange-headed dog thrush and a whole lot of some 20 or 25 other species, indicating that these birds do travel around, and also when the habitat conditions are quite suitable for them, you can get to see them. And in one of the lake bed in Hiriyur, this small prating course thought that I was quite blind enough and also myopic enough not to see it, not to differentiate it from the rock piles that are there around. And this allowed me to get as close as 5 feet from it to just huddle together, taking great faith in the camouflage that get generated by the plumage, this one. And it's such moments are really amazing to come through. And in spite of being that close, this bird did not budge, that I had to move away, not to disturb this bird species. And also, of course, I had this unique opportunity to observe the movement of greater short-toed larks, which would come in the evenings and early in the mornings to a lake to take 3 or 4 sips of water in huge flocks of say 300 to 500 birds together, take few sips of water and just vanish away. Then again, they come in the evening to do the same before they go to roost. These are some of the observations like the sand roses that you get to see in Rajasthan deserts. It's very similar to that. I was very thrilled to observe these things. And also in one of the places in Mandya district, in Satnur area, a leopard kept watching us for nearly 2.5 hours as we surveyed the whole area from the top of a hillock, resting on a huge boulder. And each and every time we looked at, we found the leopard looking at us directly down from the hilltop above. And also this the survey also made me go to some of the finest habitats that are still intact in Mysore, the Karnataka area. These are dry deciduous scrub in Makli Durga area, which is very parched during summer, but during monsoon, it's an amazing place to be. The greenery is breathtaking. And also this Chitradurga fort where you'll never ever be able to miss yellow-throated bulbuls when you get to this Chitradurga fort. And this is a typical habitat of the species. The Salim Ali visited this place also. And the coffee estates of Billingaranga Hills, it was amazing to watch birds in these areas. And also the Cardamom estate where nearly 30% of the estate is still wild. And you get to see these Shola grasslands and the mountain grasslands with the Shola, pristine Shola habitats, where we saw the grasshopper warbler. and sites on savanna nightjars inhabiting these grassy areas and the edges of sholas. It was amazing experience to do that. And the Babu Woods again, the Kamangundi area, the Badra Tiger Reserve area. So amazing to watch birds again. And the Agumbe area, where Agumbe by far is the wettest area in Karnataka, which receives about 720 centimeters of rain during monsoon. And the wet evergreen forests are amazingly breathtaking, where the visibility is just about 10 feet also. You can't see anything beyond, but you can only hear birds. And this, it's here we saw a flock of laughing thrushes. There was something close to about 40 birds also in that particular flock. They kept on streaming across the forest path that we are walking. We just stayed put, started counting birds. It was an amazing experience to do that as well. And Salim Ali, incidentally, I had collected the Wayanad laughing fishes in the same in Agumbe area. There's a kind of forest that you get to see in Agumbe. And also the Sita Nadi area, which is very well stocked with fishes, so densely populated with fishes that both the lesser and greater fishing eagles were found in this riverine area. And a pair of both the species were fighting over a nest platform that wanted to take over. And the fish, the river was so well stocked with fishes, and probably both the species find it to be amazing habitat to area to live in. And we used to get to see some these giants that used to that was there probably in Setiel area. There's a kind of trees, because this is some 200 feet tall tree where the buttress itself is about 20 feet in height, and it's about more than 15 feet or so in girth. And there's a kind of giants that used to be there, and very unfortunately these forests like this were raised down to make way for teak plantations, where we very surprisingly found even rufous-bellied hawk eagles being at home in those plantations. Yeah, that's it again. That's exactly what I did. And also this survey I did not do alone, but there are a whole lot of people who helped me achieve this remarkable dream of mine. There's an amazing dream come true, and nearly about 200 people helped me directly and indirectly, both in the field, of the field, in making me do this survey. And I would like to, of course, I can't read out all their name, but I would like to thank them for all their support and kind-heartedness which I was given to. And it's really thrilling that I carried out this survey without a single hitch from day one till the last day. I never had any difficulties in any other areas, other than getting stomach upsets in some other areas because the food was not very good. Other than that, it is an amazing 110-day dream run of doing this Mysore bird survey. Of course, I'd like to thank all those people who shared images with me. And of course, if you want to read through my Mysore bird survey, the articles, the whole survey has been summarized in about 6 articles on JLR Explore. So all you have to go Google search JLR Explore and Salim Ali Trail. You get to these stories. Thanks to S. Karthikeyan, old birdwatching friend of mine, who insisted that I write up these things before the memories those trips fade. And I put down all my experiences, whatever I told you right now in these 6 articles. Please do read them at JLR Explore. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Subramania. That was amazing. I mean, this was like, I'm sure everybody would agree with me when I say, I think we were actually traveling along with you during this entire journey that you took us. It was I'm actually short of words to describe precisely what we experienced. And I think the accolades which have been keyed into the chat box, I mean, it's amazing that everybody feels that it's not just the talk alone, but the effort that went into doing what you actually did, and the motivation you had to do it. And to imagine that you spent about 15 years actually recording, preparing, and then starting the whole process in 2018. Tremendous. tremendous.
I keep telling to my students that you need to dream big and go achieve those dreams. That's the way to live life.
Yeah, I know. And I think everybody, including Mr. Bittu Cycle, feels that there's plenty more left in you to push us and motivate us to do the rest of the trails. So if you could help us probably understand which are the other trails done by others, maybe this could we could actually do this as a regular exercise every
See,
10
Tamil
years.
Nadu, Ranjit Daniels did the Eastern Ghats survey
Yeah.
for the Tamil Nadu part of Eastern Ghats sometime back, and of course the article has been published.
True. So if this is done every 10, 15 years, we would also have a good record of what was there when the survey was done and what is now left. Because because you were, I must have heard at least 5, 6 times when you said the forests are gone, plantations have come, it will get razed to the ground. This is a threat, which is what we are facing today from right across the country, not just. So I do not see any questions for you. The only thing that I see is extremely happy, totally amazing, very inspiring, fabulous talk. I think everybody wants to do, probably wish that you could do this again and we could all come with you.
I don't know. Everything fell into place at that time, Vijay. Now,
Yeah.
look back, I don't know whether they can redo the same survey again.
I know.
So different.
I
The
was
situations are
just saying. And it's also good to know that there are quite a few of those circuit houses and rest houses and forest bungalows are still there.
different. Also,
Okay, there's a question. Was there also records of the state of the forests which we could compare?
Salim Ali also, I want to talk this to Bittu because of course, I went to the National Archives at Nehru Museum in Delhi looking at Salim Ali's some manuscripts and also spent 2 days in BNHS trying to turn up anything to locate Salim Ali's Mysore Bird Survey field guides. Unfortunately, those field guides are not there.
Oh, so sad.
And those field guides belongs to the Ornithology of India. These are the national monuments. Probably Bittu during this time may be able to track down as to where those field notebooks are, bring them back together, or probably maintain at BNHS or give to the National Archives. It's something that we need to do because I desperately look for this one and any amount of searching for them. I went to Fateh Ali's house and turned up things there, contacted Salim Ali's family. Nobody knows where those field notebooks are. But in his Mysore papers, Salim Ali mentioned that in my field notebooks I've written this and also those field notes does exist, but we don't know who has those field notebooks.
Okay.
Where are those field notebooks?
Okay.
Because Deepak Apte helped me a lot. It was so very nice and kind of him to open up BNHS to look for anything that I wanted related to Mysore Bird Survey. Some of those photographs that you see, they're all from some of them are from BNHS. And in spite of that, we could not locate the field notebooks of Mysore Bird Survey. Because for that matter, field notebooks of all the surveys that Salim Ali did at the princely state should be archived at BNHS or survey. Hopefully, Bittu, I'll request it.
I'll put it like this. Why don't we right now, as a result of this wonderful, walk through history that you've given us, why don't we put this on the agenda of the BNHS and the
yeah.
and let us see what comes up, and this can be done by way of an appeal, because while we are in Chennai or Mumbai, there are people in Delhi whose whole life is nothing but archives. So you never know who has what in which copies and how and where, and whether it is in Asiatic Library or whether let us start the process of telling people we want to get this information.
Sure, but I'll email you on this. Probably
Yes.
The process.
Excellent. I'm so happy. I must tell you that, there was a young girl very young girl called Archana, who used to be Dr. Salim Ali's secretary and assistant. And with her, I had done, I think, 14 hours of oral archives in All India Radio with Dr. Salim Ali. And every single word he spoke was something so amazing, so new, and I had known him already for 5-6 years, But those archives are not available to us from the government. The Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has, through various governments that have come and gone, almost kept it like a state secret, you know. So this could be another thing that we do as not just MNS and BNHS, but all organizations, to say these are the archives that can possibly help us to refashion our subcontinent and try to rewild it and bring it back, because that will fight climate change, that will improve health. We will get into the issue of avian viruses, so many things we could do, you know. So let's just agree that we will work together.
Yes,
Yeah,
sure.
I think, yeah, correct. And that actually takes us to your question that you had posed to Dr. Subbu as to why not work on retracing most steps of the old-time greats and then relate them to the state of the forests and ecosystems today.
Yeah, we should do
Absolutely.
that because most of this information are population available. We need to only look at them, locate them, and also try to do this. For example, while I was at Tring, I collected the egg collections of one ornithologist based in Hyderabad, Colonel Sparrow. And I managed to copy down all the ledger from the ledgers as to what all
Wow.
the where he collected the eggs in Andhra Pradesh area. And people now say that Vijayawada, the Indian skimmers used to nest on the sandbags in the river, Krishna River.
I see.
They don't do anymore.
I know.
So may I suggest one thing? You know, the 12th of November is Dr. Salim Ali's birth anniversary. I
Yeah.
think the BNHS has made it known that this is Dr. Salim Ali belonged, as you said, not just to ornithologists, he belonged to the whole world, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the time at which Subramanya, I would really request you and everybody, Ranjit, Daniel, I would request all of you, you know, I mean, we should, Mrs. Tara Gandhi will be there. Please, when you write to us, it will be an open thing. It will be something that will probably be live streamed in various ways. Younger people will know precisely how to do all this, but we shall do it, and let us use the pandemic and the problems that have come. And as they say, when nature serves you a lemon, try to make lemonade. Let us do what we can do like we are doing now, you know.
The pandemic has been good to me too because I can catch up with so much of thing and so much of work that I can do. I never get bored for a single minute because there's so much about work to do.
Stay safe, but stay safe.
I know.
Yeah. Good, wonderful. Thank you so much. This has been a most enjoyable morning, you know, really wonderful. Tara, I haven't heard from you. You're sitting over there and you're the force.
Not at all, Vitu and Subbu. I remember how passionate you were about this, and you were saying, please don't tell anybody because I don't want too many people to join. I think we had so many people volunteering to join, including me. I was trying to persuade him to say, okay, at least let me do the documentation. Let's do something with this. I remember he said, I'm so glad because he had a limited group and he was able to travel with it. I mean, this is so significant for conservation and to be able to compare what happened 70 years ago and what is happening now. So, as Vitu, you said, the ecological angle is really interesting. Important to know what is the situation of those very habitats right now.
Great, Tara, your voice was cracking slightly, but the gist of what you said is so clear. I think, Subbu, you've got a lot of work to do. Sudhakar, we've got, our agenda is set out.
Make use of my services. It comes free of cost, no strings attached.
You're now
There's
sounding
quite a
like
lot to do. I think Dr. Subbu is in trouble now. We are
No,
going
no.
to bother him so much.
he is sounding like Dr. Salim Ali. You know, when a couple of months before Dr. Salim Ali died, he was in bed and I had gone to visit him, and he picked up the skin of his hand like this and said, you see, this decrepit body can't keep pace with my mind. It's now up to you younger people, you know. So let us. Wonderful.
Wonderful.
So,
yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bitu. Thank you for being with us this morning. And please remember to join us again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And Dr. Subramania, So thank you very, very much. That was
Most welcome. I'm so happy.
that was
And,
so wonderful.
morning well spent for me
Yeah,
being with you people.
and I
You too as well.
and I thank everyone, all members of MNS and our guests who are present here this morning. Please remember to join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for the second day of the two-day event of the BNHS MNS celebrating the life and work of Dr. Salim Ali. See you then tomorrow morning.
Thank
you
you.
all. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Stay safe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.